warm welcome to Federal special program Capital Beat. A social sciences committee of the NCERT has recommended that the word India will be replaced with Bharat from all the textbooks starting from the primary to the high school level. The panel has also recommended that the students should be exposed more to the Indian knowledge systems. The panel has also said that they should be taught classical history instead of the ancient history. There should be equal space given to all the dynasties. There should be more mention in the history books about the Hindu victories. That's what the recommendation by this panel is. It's just a recommendation. It has not been implemented. But the opposition has dubbed this move as a political agenda, and it looks like a move to saffronize education. But the timing is circumspect because it comes right in the middle of an election, where 5 states are going to polls. And also it talks about the misplaced priorities as far as the education in India is concerned. Joining me now is a very special panel with us. We have the renowned historian of the country from Jawaharlal Nehru University, Professor Mridula Mukherjee. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining. We have Pushpraj Deshpande, who is the director of the Samrid Bharat Foundation. Thank you, Pushpraj. And we also have Sunil Bhargav, who is the spokesperson of BJP. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhargav. And let me begin with Mridula Mukherjee. The fact that it's a recommendation, but the Social Sciences Committee of the NCERT has given this kind of a recommendation, which has a slew of moves, which have been highlighted. Of course, that the word India will be replaced with Bharat, classical history instead of the ancient history, equal space to all dynasties. Now, what does this really show? What do you think is the main motive of this kind of a move?
Well, Neelu, as you know, this is not new and only to be expected, and it is in line with a longer-term agenda, which we have been seeing now for quite some time. I think a few months ago also, there was a lot of discussion in the public, space about the kind of changes which the NCERT had introduced in terms of deletions from the existing textbooks. And even then, I think in the debate, it became quite clear that it was all part of a pattern. And this, again, let me remind you, since as a historian, my job is always to tell you about the past. This is not new. And it is an ongoing agenda of the BJP RSS. It is part of their ideological framework. So it is only to be expected. During the first NDA regime also, we had a very concerted effort where, in fact, a large number of social science textbooks were changed. New ones got written. There was then also a lot of debate. There was a lot of criticism. People pointed out how they were often full of errors and distortions, etc. And then again, changes were made after the UPA came into power. And so then a whole new lot of textbooks with the participation of a very wide range of scholars in each case. Panels consisting of 10 to 15 people got together in each subject and wrote the new books to make sure that they represented a consensus and could not be classified as belonging to a particular point of view. So a lot of effort was made to broad base and, in a sense, answer the criticism which earlier might have been there that the books were written by certain kind of historians. Though even then, I don't think the criticism was justified, because the authors in the first round also in the 1980s and 90s had made sure that they wrote what could be called a consensus view of the Indian past or of Indian social sciences. But nevertheless, so now, as again, once now with the regime change, I think again we are seeing for the last few years, in fact, this is part of a broader effort to change the curriculum also in universities and in schools. All right. And some of it has come to public knowledge. A lot of it happens behind the scenes. UGC has changed the undergraduate curriculum in a very big way. including the 4-year BA, but it's not just the formal structure, it's the content of the courses
Right.
that has been changed. So this has been going on. So I see it as part of that process of bringing about an ideological change in the way in which we are to view our past and our present. And
But
what
Professor,
the present regime wants the younger generation, now in this case NCERT, what they want the school children to imbibe. So it's
right.
I think it's very important, first of all, before criticizing it, that we understand that it is not a random thing. It is not one committee of a few people have got together and they have given this suggestion. It is part of a broader understanding, broader framework, and committees are formed. Then, I can point out that, for example, the present committee consists of people who have very clear ideological, motivations. Maybe apart from Professor Tawar, all the others have been active members of RSS, ABVP. So it's only to be expected that they will try to put forward a certain view which they believe to be the right view, and which others, many others like us, believe is a very biased view of the past and of the present.
But Professor Mukherjee, you pointed out that earlier also, there has been a concerted effort towards changing the syllabus, saffronising it, and moving on the RSS lines. But what you saw earlier and what we are seeing right now, currently, do you think that the process has become sharper? The process has become more intense? It has become more brazen, if I may ask you?
I think what's happening now is that the political agenda, for example, the highlight of what we are talking about today is the India versus Bharat issue. Now clearly you can see that this issue got forefronted a couple of months ago in the G20 event, where suddenly the name Bharat was used in those labels and all, and the president's invite said President of Bharat, without any discussion, without any formal decision that in the future, this is how the government of India would now address itself, present itself to the world or whatever. So this is part of that pattern. So now what happens is an agenda gets set at the top political level, and then it goes down. Earlier, what I would say is that when it happened, let's say in the Vajpayee government, it was more subtle in the sense committees would get appointed, committees would then write the new textbooks. Here, it's much more upfront in terms of stating this is the agenda. And now you have a committee of very, publicly well-known RSS people who then implement that agenda and tell the NCERT what to do. Right. NCERT director may go on saying, no, they've only made a recommendation. But we all know that once it is the advice comes from certain quarters, it's more than likely to be accepted.
Right.
I would say so.
Right. But let me come to Mr. Bhargav, that of course it's a recommendation which has been made. That's what the NCERT panel members have also said. So are we expecting that the next set of NCERT books which will be published will have India replaced with Bharat? Are we to assume that?
First of all, let us understand our constitutional position. What the preamble says. It is India that is Bharat. So Bharat is the conscience of the nation. You are naming it India because the English invaders, they called it India. Okay. Now, this is the first thing that I want to make clear. Number two, I would slightly differ with Professor Mukherjee. In the 80s and 90s, you say it was a consensus. What kind of a consensus? The government-driven consensus, history books written by leftist ideological historians, like maybe I can name many of them. So what India is today taught is something which has the invaders in mind, the English mentality and the Mughal mentality of invaders. You want to forget the past of thousands of years and want to impose the 200 or 300 years of the invaders in India. Now, if that is the history, how much is the Mughal history? But then you teach everything almost like the Mughals were the... So there are defects. India has to go in a manner where the pride and the unity and the feel of one nation, one people is brought forward. You can't divide people. So there have been discussions for so many years. This decade is a decade of change. It is a decade of change for the pride of the country.
What does change mean for you, Mr. Bhargav? Does change mean completely wipe out all what was taught to the children earlier?
What is being wiped out?
No, you were saying that
NCERT, the recommendation that comes in, says that some chapters would be added because there is a complete disbalance.
But can you explain when this panel says that classical history will be introduced instead of ancient history? Now, what does that mean? What does that mean?
That means that the history of the thousands of years of Sanatana will also be brought into the curriculum because that is already forgotten. That's not a part of the current history that is being taught.
I think, yes. I think Professor Mukherjee wants to make a point. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
This is a factual point, you know. I mean, this is just not true. I'm so sorry to have to say this, but you know, what they now want to call classical history, or what has been traditionally called ancient history all over the world, is taught. In fact, we begin the teaching of history in the schools in India. If we are going by the NCERT textbooks, we begin in class 6 with ancient Indian history, all right? In class 7, you bring in medieval history. In class 8, you have the curriculum of modern Indian history, right? And then in the 9th and 10th, we do world history in various ways. And when we come again to the 11th and the 12th, we have ancient, medieval, and modern in equal measure. So this is factually untrue. Now, you may not like a particular view of history, but to make a statement saying that ancient history or classical history, whatever you want to call it, is not being taught today is factually a wrong statement. The curriculum has enough on the ancient period. I'm sorry. And here one will have to quote chapter and verse. This is not a question of a viewpoint. It's not my viewpoint versus Mr. Bhargava's viewpoint. This is a matter of looking at the chapters and the books which are there and seeing how much of curriculum is on which period. And I would say that at the moment, the course is very well divided into 3 components, and they are given equal importance right up to the +2 level.
All right. Yes, Mr. Bhargav, complete point.
Yes. Now, ancient, modern, and medieval. Now, 3 periods in equal parts. Now, look at the periods of this. Thousands of years versus some few hundred years, which get 2/3. Now, that's where the catch lies. So, imbalanced that way. It is definitely imbalanced. And what do we take pride in? Do we take pride in our own culture, our own glorious history, our own people, our own way of life, better than the others? What should India feel pride of? What should our students learn and feel oneness with the nation and our culture and history?
All right. So you are trying to balance out. No, what you are saying is that the current curriculum is trying to balance out the various eras and various dynasties which are there. Now let me get in a reaction from Pushpraj. How would you see this BJP's balancing act? It's a brazen saffronization, a case of misplaced priorities where there are lack of teachers, lack of textbooks. But even then, the priority of the government is to, get the India name replaced with Bharat.
India is already Bharat. India is already Bharat.
All right. Let me get in Pushpraj on this. Yes.
Hi, Neeluji. Since Mridula ma'am also started with some facts, I also have this itch to set one thing aside. This BJP really likes to look at medieval India as this Muslim period, Mughal period that sort of ruled India. I'm sorry, I studied history as well. I studied in class 9, 10th, 11th, and all the way till college also. They are forgetting that the Marathas ruled during the medieval period, as did the Vijayanagar kingdom, as in Tuluva kingdom. These are all non-Muslim kingdoms.
Yes.
They're all part of the medieval India. So they are considering these are not Indian enough for them. I really have this grave objection with this fixation with one particular empire that existed in India. So they should really learn to study facts and history for themselves rather than just spouting their ideological proclivities. That's one thing. Secondly, in an ideal world, the NCERT would be functioning independently and in the national interest without any interference from the union government or its ideological agenda. But we know, Mridula ma'am has spoken about this, others have written about this. Those institutional proprietaries have been assigned to the dustbin of history. So the NCERT's panel is stacked with experts. And some of them of a higher, some of them have come from a certain political dispensation, desperate to curry one more appointment or one more favor from the government. It is because of this malleability that the NCERT panel is so willing to kowtow what's politically suitable to the BJP. Let me explain why. And we are forgetting the context. At 12 p.m., the Congress party released a video of the former governor Satyapal Malik damning allegations on the Pulwama attack. Within 1 hour, not only were the NCERT's recommendations out, they were all over the media. I mean, the media facilitated this entire, blitzkrieg across all channels. If this was an isolated incident, I would dismiss it as a coincidence. But hasn't the BJP repeatedly resorted to deflecting from critical issues and obfuscation by focusing on non-issues? Secondly, ever since the India's 27 parties chose their alliance name, the BJP has brought up some issue or the other to front-end Bharat. We personally don't have any problem with this because as our constitution says, India, that is Bharat. But in doing this, the BJP is shooting itself in the foot. I'll tell you why. Because in 1947, Jinnah had objected to India calling itself India. In his mind, India represented the whole of the Indian subcontinent. So he said, you guys call yourself Hindustan or Bharat. Now, I'm quite befuddled by the BJP given both the RSS and the BJP claim to be firmly committed to the concept of Akhand Bharat and being vehemently opposed to Jinnah. Here, in this issue, it seems that the BJP is agreeing with Jinnah wholeheartedly and eschewing its commitment to Akhand Bharat. They've given it up. I mean, isn't this like shooting itself in the foot?
That's an interesting point, Mr. Bhargav.
And even more substantively, India has always used Bharat and India interchangeably. In the Indian version of our constitution, it reads India, that is Bharat. That is correct. Everyone says this, everyone touts that. Here, primacy is given to India. But in the Hindi version, it says Bharat Arthat India. Here, primacy is given to Bharat. Yeah. Likewise, for the past 70 years, there have been a number of institutions in India that have been given, that have been prefixed called with Bharat. Just to name a few, Bharat Petroleum, BHEL, BEL, Bharat Sanchar, they're all prefixed Bharat. In fact, our nation's foremost award is called Bharat Ratna. And this didn't happen with the BJP in 2014. No damning changes have happened past 2014. This all happened since 1947. So to make this unstated argument that Bharat has somehow been sidelined in the last 17 years is reductive and false. And mind you, this is a far more serious issue. This is a federal issue. Kerala government has already said that it won't accept the NCERT's recommendations. There are 11 states today that are not ruled by the BJP. 3 more will be added in the next 1 month. Others are ruled by coalition government, especially in the Northeast, which prefer India. They don't prefer Bharat. Now the BJP tried this with the language issue. They tried this with the tax devolution. They tried this with the central sponsored schemes. If they continue to impose themselves and their viewpoint on states, they're not just junking cooperative federalism, but they're also severely straining India's national integrity.
Right. Mr. Bhargav, you want to respond to these statements?
Yes. I have a comments to make. Now, there is a misconception that has been placed all over that India is a subcontinent and Bharat is the portion which after independence came into existence. Now, look at the history. I'm not a historian, mind you. So Bharatvarsha during the Ashoka regime was from where to where? Or the Indian rule till Afghanistan or till the Indonesia and Burma? What was that? Was that not Bharat? Was that India? Now, some of the misconceptions which are being deliberately propagated by the leftist historians is to be corrected. Number two, I'm told that the medieval history is only Muslim. I did not mention that. It's not a Muslim history. It is also the history of Maharana Pratap. It's also the history of Shivaji. But look at how much and the manner in which these people are projected. Were they not great warriors? Were they not great rulers? You call Shivaji as a Pahadi Chuha? Now, if this is to be taught,
Who said that?
I'm not with it. If this is to be taught, sorry, I'm not with it.
Where did you read this phrase, Pahadi Chuha, Mr. Bhargav?
See, this is what the history has told us. I have also.
Shishu Mandir,
I haven't read it. I have never read Pahadi Chuha about.
But what is the balance in the medieval history? What is the balance? Now, this is what is to be properly balanced, and you should take pride not in the invaders. Akbar Mahan nahi hai hamare liye. If Akbar is great for you, I'm sorry.
All right. Now, Pushpraj was raising his hand. Then I'll come to Professor Mukherjee. Yes, Pushpraj, you wanted to make a point?
No, so firstly, I actually studied more of Maratha history than Mughal history. So I really don't understand where this imbalance issue is coming up. And secondly, I'm quite surprised that you're calling this, what was the phrase?
Pahadi Chuha.
I have never heard this. This is the first time I've heard this from someone in my entire life. In our history that we've been taught, he's always been respectfully referred to as Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. That is how we refer to him. We don't refer to him as Pahadi Chuha. Maybe this is taught in the Saraswati Shishu Mandir. We were not taught this in the NCERT textbooks.
Even I've never read it before.
And in fact, I find this quite offensive.
Yes. Professor Mukherjee, now whole of this, the explanation coming in from Mr. Bhargav and what we're reading about what the government is intending to do. Do you think that the timing is also circumspect given the fact that these kind of recommendations are coming right in the middle of the election? Do you think that this move, reeks politically of something of a larger agenda, maybe?
Well, that as a historian, that is not my concern, what the timing is or not. And as Pushpraj said, it is possible that it's a deflectionary move because of, we are all the time reading about this in the newspapers. Journalists keep pointing out that now this is happening, therefore this is happening. But I am really much more concerned as a historian with the more serious issues involved over here. And as I have already said, that what is important is that it is a long-term political agenda which is being imposed on the writing of history and other social sciences. And that's what's really worrisome. That actually you are not giving the freedom to, you don't have faith, you don't have respect for the professional historians of your country, that they will deliver to the children of this country the best possible history writing in the world. It is really a tragedy. I wish we weren't so narrow-minded and so unaware of actually how Indian history writing today, the level at which we have reached, is respected all over the world. Indian historians writing on all periods of Indian history have made enormous progress in terms of the subjects which they deal with, the manner in which they deal with them, the range of sources that they consult, from archaeology to numismatics to genetics to, classical sources, the comparative studies which they have done with comparing with other countries. So actually, Indian history, we should be proud of the fact that after independence, we have actually achieved a very high level of scholarship. Our historians are rated as the best in the world. The people whom you are condemning and saying, oh, these are leftist historians like Romila Thapar or Irfan Habib or Bipin Chandra or Satish Chandra, sorry, these are the people that have brought you accolades from all over the world. And they are not narrow-minded leftist historians. In fact, many of them have these labels imposed on them. You should read their work. do please read Irfan Habib's work on the agrarian system of the Mughals. It is not about the greatness of Akbar or Aurangzeb. It is a critique of the whole agrarian system of Jagirdari, Mansabdari, which oppresses the peasants, and how peasant rebellions take place, and they bring about change and the downfall of the Mughal Empire. But who bothers to read? Who bothers to see? This is my tragedy. As a historian, I am reduced to a position all the time trying to say, give us a little space. But everybody in this country is busy writing history for us. Politicians, bureaucrats, you name it, from the top to the bottom, everybody knows history and wants to write it. So why? I feel so redundant now, having spent all my life trying to teach and write what I think is good history, nationalist history, bringing about a sense of pride in my students. I can assure you all my students have a great sense of pride in this country, but not because we try to give them a false sense of pride, because there is so much good in our history in every period, from the ancient to the prehistory to the Mughal period, not the Mughal, the medieval period, as Pushpraj took pains to point out, which has Vijayanagar, which has Shivaji, and so much more, and the colonial period and the post-colonial period. You know, there is so much to be proud of, but that doesn't mean we don't take a critical look at our history. That doesn't mean that we valorize the caste system, that we refuse to recognize that untouchability also was there. If we refuse to recognize that, that is why we are here today in 2023, we are still trying to solve the issue of caste. We have to look critically at religious conflict also. We have to look critically at women's position in our history. Only then we can move forward. No country can progress if they only have a rose-eyed, rose-tinted view of their history. And I'd just like to make one or two points about this India versus Bharat. Why we get, as Pushpraj said, we have been using both India and Bharat happily. The BJP's problem is wants to polarize everything. It cannot accept both India and Bharat. It must be India versus Bharat. Why? The Japanese are quite happy with Japan, Nippon, which they use Nippon for themselves, the Japan, the others say Japan. In UK, you are the United Kingdom, you are Great Britain, you are England. All the names are used interchangeably. In America, they say US. They have so many names. His names come from history. And let me point out, the name India was not given by the horrible Muslims to India.
Right.
It was given by the nice classical Greeks. They are the ones who first started using the word Indus. So it comes from there. It comes from the river Indus, which they encountered. And it was the people on the other side of the Indus. From Indus, it became Hind because the Persians, the Iranians could not say her. So they could not say sir. The Sindhu, the sir became a her, and that became then Hind. And the people became Hindus. So there's a whole history to names. You don't wipe out history by changing a name.
These are some very
there is nothing shameful about the name India.
Right. No,
let me point out, those who fought for the freedom of this country, did they not use the word Indian National Congress? Did they not use the word India? Did Gandhiji not use the word India? Was he not proud of India? Did he not know Indian history? Did they say we should use only Bharat? Bharatiya Rashtriya Congress, Indian National Congress. This country is known for acceptance of diversity and living with it happily.
Right. No, these are some very interesting points which have been highlighted. Mr. Bhargav, my question to you is, why use education as a polarizing tool? There is so much to do in education. There are so many gaping areas. Lack of textbooks, vacancy of teachers, availability of the school infrastructure. Why go after this? Is this a priority of the government? Coming right in the middle of election time? What is the motive?
Niluji, just go a few years back. India for the first time had the education policy. A very detailed note on how the education...
First time? We never had an education policy before that. What are you saying? Kothari Commission?
No,
I mean, please,
1984,
you have a
1984.
new education policy, but don't say there was no education policy.
1984 education policy.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Bhargav.
See,
Yes.
And before that,
policy-
Kothari Commission.
There was an
Please.
education policy. You got
Education. Don't want to discuss this. You only want to say that because you want a name to be changed. We are not changing the name. We are trying to use the name Bharat more frequently. What is wrong in it? Bharat is, like you said, India came from Greeks. Hindustan or Hindus came from these people. Now, when did Bharat come? Was it prior to this?
Choose
or
both.
after? No. So who is
just
saying
Dr.
India
Mukherjee, let him speak. Yeah.
said that India is not to be used?
We use.
It's a constitutional thing. So, what gives you more pride? That is the question. And to whom? That is the question. What gives you more pride? There is pride. But then what gives you more pride? I fail to understand why there is so much fuss about.
It's a very
right.
lopsided approach by the BJP. Isn't this a very lopsided approach by the NCERT and BJP both to talk about these?
I don't agree to this.
Okay, you will not agree. All right.
Which will also talk about it.
You've already said that you will not agree with that. Yes, Pushpraj, you've been raising your hand.
No, I'm saying that the RSS might have taken 52 years to accept the tricolor as the national flag, but the rest of us have actually been using Bharat and India since 1947. We have been using the Indian tricolor since 1947. Let me finish. I didn't interrupt you, sir. Sir, I didn't interrupt you. Sir, I didn't interrupt you.
One by one.
Is this what the BJP teaches?
Or do you get?
That's not
Is this
true.
BJP Sanskriti?
It's a non-issue into a good debate.
We agree it's a non-issue because we have been using Bharat and India since before.
That's the problem.
We agree it's a non-issue because we. One second, hold on.
Yes.
We agree it's a non-issue because we have been using Bharat and India since 1947. The BJP might have woken up right now, just like the BJP woke up after 52 years that, oh, Bapre, this tricolor is actually our tricolor. We have been using it since before the independence struggle also. So please don't give us lessons on that. And the fact of the matter is, I agree with you, Neeluji. The entire education system right now, there is huge dropouts rates, especially after COVID. We are struggling with the fact that because of the imposition of digital learning, a lot of students are not getting access to education. Instead of focusing on these substantive issues, they've taken up this reductive issue. And this is a classical sign of obfuscation. And, this is exactly what the Nazis used to do. I mean, Goebbels is on record as saying that use propaganda to divert, obfuscate, and keep people's attentions away from real issues. This is classic toolkit. It's a Nazi toolkit. Here, there are serious problems facing India. There are serious problems facing today. There's a report in the newspaper. I don't know if anyone's really focused on that, but Bhutan is giving away its land, is swapping land with China. And the Chicken's Neck, the Siliguri corridor is seriously under threat. This is a major national security issue. We're not talking about that. We're talking about this random non-issue which was resolved before 1947. The BJP has woken up late. Doesn't mean that we have woken up late. They have been this anti-national party. Doesn't mean that everyone else in India has been not focusing about Bharat and India. They are waking up late to norms and protocols and constitutional protocols that have been established way before. That doesn't mean that they impose and take India back and not focus on substantive issues. And this is the problem. There is a certain sickness that is being imposed, a disease that is being imposed top down from the BJP leadership. They are not focusing on any people-centric issue, on healthcare, on education, on unemployment, on economy. There is no substantive discussion or way forward.
Right. And it, like so many sectors Pushpraj has pointed out, but let's talk about education only. In education, there is nothing beyond this. As a parent of young children, I will feel more worried if my children are not able to read basic English, if they are not able to do basic maths. Look at the learning outcomes which have come. They are so, dangerous.
Neeluji, I just want to talk about one thing. I remember this. I had just passed out of college in 2010. I distinctly remember looking at a debate, I think it was on NDTV or CNN, on the ASER committee report, ASER. State of Education report. They were talking about how in class 10th and class 11, students are not being able to read certain textbooks.
What exactly I pointed out.
Their education level is class 9. That was the level of debate in 2010, 2011, 2013. Look at the level of debate today. We were focusing on how do we upskill our students so that they're able to compete with the rest of the world and we are able to be front runners. That's what we were talking about. Today, we are talking about basic things that were established and resolved in 1947. This is only because of this backward Janata Party. That is the problem.
Mr. Bhargav, are we going to become
But
Vishwagurus with this kind of a lopsided approach to education?
I think somebody's forgetting that never before BJP, anybody talked about skilling India. And that became a big campaign. Now, what are we talking? 2010, we were discussing something which was just in the televisions. Where was the government action? The government did not move an inch. Only this government has started skilling India and doing your own job. Don't become just servants. Become your masters of the business.
Yeah.
Become part of the economy. So that's what is being forgotten.
All right. Now I'll come for the concluding comments now.
No. I want to say this. Skilling India was launched in 2010 and this National Skill Development Corporation was launched in 2012. This is complete bullshit.
It was non-functional.
Please check your facts. I'm looking at the government Lok Sabha website.
It was non-functional. It was non-functional.
You said right now nothing was happening before 2014. Now you're saying don't change the goalpost.
All right.
This is what was happening. I will actually tell you how many people were trained. What nonsense is this?
All right. Now, Professor Mukherjee, concluding comments on.
Like you were using nonsense. That should be stopped.
Okay, Mr. Bhargav, you made your point. I want to go for the concluding comment to Mr. Professor Mukherjee. Very briefly, ma'am, what would you want to say towards the end of it?
Yeah, I think it's very important that we have our priorities right. When we are talking about education, as Pushpraj just raised many of the issues, we have so many life and death issues for children. And one which was raised by you also and him also. I have been seeing this. The poorest of people who work as cooks and cleaning floors in people's houses, people who work as agricultural laborers, their children are being asked to buy smartphones so that they can continue their education. Because now teachers are sending them homework and exercises and all through smartphones in villages. I went to a village in Haryana where I saw this. The child, the agricultural laborer took a loan and bought a phone for 15,000 rupees for his daughter. Otherwise, she could no longer continue to participate in the activities. And she's in class 6. This is what you are actually doing. These are your crises, okay? You have no idea what's going on in the real world. You have no idea how the poor in this country are struggling to educate their children. And when they educate their children, also no jobs, nothing. Just yesterday, I was talking to a woman who works in people's houses. I have educated my daughter till class 12. But what do? There is no job for her. And I can't put her in college. College has become so expensive. When I studied in college, I paid 15 rupees as fees in Lady Shri Ram College. Delhi University colleges, government-run colleges, you have to at least pay a few thousand now. That woman who earns total of 10, 15,000 by working in 4 houses, where is she going to get that money? We have stopped. JNU was the one place where we still had continued totally cheap and subsidized education, and you've ruined the university. You have virtually cut down the number of admissions. You have distorted the admissions. We don't care for the poor in this country anymore. That's your real crisis. You are producing malnourished, stunted, undereducated, unemployable, section of society, which is amounting to about 30% of your population at least. That's your real crisis. Focus on it. We are quite happy saying Bharat, India from the housetops. I don't care. Call it Bharat. Give our people the education. Call it what you like. But give them the substance. Give them a chance at a real life. But we are privatizing, we are bringing in foreign universities in this city where, as I was telling you, 15 rupees is what I paid till in MA, I paid 18 rupees in Delhi University. In JNU for PhD, I paid 22 rupees. You can imagine the education, and I got a first world-class education. Can you give that to any of our children today?
Mr. Bhargav,
Answer this
including
question.
comments now from you as well, because those were strong words coming from Professor Mukherjee. That's why I want a reaction from you, and then I'll end the program.
I think Professor Mukherjee is right, but that is something which is not related to this. Overall economic growth, overall tackling of the issues, overall, these are some issues which have a greater plane to be looked into. Now, today we are discussing a very limited point, and that is something which I feel should have been focused. Now, yes, there are problems of employment, but what I call, when Professor Mukherjee paid 15 rupees, the income of the family used to be hundreds rupees, 100 or 150. Now, compared to what the income is today. Now, if professors of history cannot look at the economics and the
All right.
the scales there.
All right. No, we've got your point. We've got your point, but the time is really running out. I have to really interrupt you here, but we have not discussed throughout this discussion, whatever we have discussed so far, that what is going to be the impact on the children's minds who will be studying and reading these new NCERT books. What kind of a logistical nightmare will it be? What kind of a logistical nightmare will it be when you start publishing new books, and what the children are going to go through? We've not dwelled on those points.
Have you considered the fiscal element of this?
The fiscal element.
To recall all those NCERT textbooks. And
absolutely.
I read an estimate that it's going to cost almost 9,000 crores to print all of them again.
That should not be a problem. That should not be a problem.
Of course, it won't be a problem because you don't have to put money anywhere else.
The Indian economy is growing like anything. You don't have to worry about.
All right.
9,000 crores.
All right. So you're saying it's not a problem at all. But it does look like a case of misplaced priorities, I would say, when you have a large chunk of children who can't read basic English, who can't do basic maths. There are no teachers, no infrastructure. And here in education, and in Hindi also. And here in education,
blame for that 70 years of rule.
No, and then here in the year 2023, we are saying that, India should be replaced with Bharat, equal space should be given to the dynasties. This is really beyond anybody's comprehension. But I'll have to end the program here. Thank you so much to Professor Mukherjee, Mr. Bhargav, Pushpraj. Thank you so much for joining. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this discussion: subscribe to our channel, send us a feedback, and stay tuned to The Federal. Thank you.
Subscribe to The Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.